Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The kitchen faucet had been dripping for 3 weeks. Every night I'd lie in bed listening to that rhythmic torture, thinking I should fix it tomorrow. Tonight was different. Tonight I was actually doing something about it. I'm Pierce Eldro, 39 years old, recently laid off from the railroad maintenance crew after 15 years of honest work. My wife Alara thinks I'm wasting my potential, sitting around the house moping instead of finding another job. Easy for her to say. She's climbing the corporate ladder at Meridian Tech Consulting while I'm trying to figure out what comes next. The wrench slipped, and I cursed under my breath. From the living room, I heard Alara's laugh. Not the polite chuckle she gives me when I tell a joke, but something genuine. Something I hadn't heard in months. "Oh, Rylan, you're terrible," she said into her phone. Her voice carried that musical quality I remembered from our early dating days. I froze. Rylan Ventor was her boss, the golden boy who drove a Tesla and wore suits that probably cost more than my monthly unemployment check. I'd met him twice at company functions, once at a Christmas party where he barely acknowledged my existence, and again at a barbecue where he spent 10 minutes explaining cryptocurrency while I nodded and planned my escape. Her laptop pinged from the kitchen counter. The screen lit up, showing a calendar notification. Special after party with R. Executive suite. My hands went numb. The wrench clattered into the sink. Another ping. This time, a text message preview appeared on her synced tablet, sitting right next to me. "Can't wait for tonight. Wear the red dress." I stared at the screen until it went dark. The red dress. The one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. The one she claimed made her feel too exposed for our dinner at Romano's. "Pierce?" Alara's voice came from the doorway. "How's the faucet coming?" I turned around, forcing a smile. She stood there in her work clothes, sharp blazer, pencil skirt, heels that made her 3 inches taller. Professional, untouchable, beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. "Almost done," I said. "Big meeting tonight?" "Company party, boring networking stuff." She walked over and kissed my cheek, her perfume mixing with the metallic smell of the pipes. "Don't wait up." After she left, I sat in the kitchen staring at that tablet. I knew her password, our wedding date, because she was sentimental like that, or used to be. I opened her photos. There they were, buried in a folder labeled Work Events. Pictures I'd never seen. Alara and Rylan at restaurants I couldn't afford. Alara laughing in the passenger seat of his Tesla. Alara in the red dress, standing way too close to a man who wasn't her husband. The timestamps told the story. 3 months of secret dinners, weekend conferences, and late-night strategy sessions. 3 months while I'd been beating myself up about losing my job, thinking I was disappointing her. Turns out, she'd already found a replacement. I checked their location history. Same hotel, same nights, same lies. My phone buzzed. A text from my old boxing coach, Mick. "You coming to the gym tonight, or are you going to keep wallowing?" I looked at the dripping faucet, then at the photos on Alara's tablet. Some things couldn't be fixed with a wrench. "On my way," I texted back. But first, I had a party to crash. The Meridian Tech offices occupied the top 3 floors of the Hartwell building downtown. All glass and steel, the kind of place where everyone spoke in acronyms and treated coffee like a religious ritual. I'd been here exactly twice, both times feeling like a fraud in my one decent suit. Tonight was different. Tonight I belonged here. I'd spent 2 hours getting ready. Shower, shave, the charcoal suit Alara bought me for her promotion dinner. I looked good. Not Rylan Ventor good, but respectable. The kind of man who might have legitimate business at a corporate party. The elevator ride to the 23rd floor gave me time to think. My plan was simple. Confirm what I already knew, document it, and figure out what came next. I wasn't looking for confrontation. Not yet. The party was in full swing when I arrived. Catered appetizers, open bar, jazz quartet in the corner. Alara stood near the windows in her red dress, wine glass in hand, laughing at something Rylan was whispering in her ear. She looked radiant, happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. Pierce? A woman's voice behind me. I turned to find Avon Venter, Ryland's wife. Blonde, elegant, wearing a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than my car. I didn't expect to see you here. Last-minute invitation, I said. You look lovely, Avon. She smiled, but her eyes were cold. Thank you. Have you seen my husband? He seems to have disappeared. I nodded toward the windows. Over by the... But they were gone. Ilara and Ryland had vanished from the crowd. Avon followed my gaze, then looked back at me. Something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. The executive offices are on the next floor up, she said quietly. Ryland keeps a bottle of champagne in his desk. For special occasions. I met her eyes. That's good to know. There's a service elevator by the restrooms. Security cameras have blind spots. She sipped her wine. Not that it matters to me what my husband does with his free time. The lie hung between us like smoke. It mattered plenty. I found the service elevator exactly where she'd said. The 24th floor was dark except for emergency lighting and the glow coming from under one office door. Ryland's nameplate caught the light. Director of Strategic Development. Through the frosted glass, I could see two silhouettes, close together. Too close. I took out my phone and started recording. Pierce? Ilara's voice muffled through the door. What are you... Oh, God. The door opened. Ryland stood there, shirt untucked, tie loosened. Behind him, Ilara was smoothing down her red dress, lipstick smeared. This isn't what it looks like, she said. I kept recording. What does it look like, honey? Ryland stepped forward, puffing out his chest. You need to leave. This is private property. Public company, actually. Stockholders own this building. I smiled. I checked. Pierce, please. Ilara's voice cracked. Can we talk about this at home? Sure, but first, I have a proposition. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts, scrolling to a number I'd programmed an hour ago. Avon answered on the first ring. It's Pierce. Are you free tonight? I was thinking we could grab a drink. Maybe at that motel on 5th Street. The one with the neon sign. Silence on the other end, then. That sounds perfect. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. I hung up and looked at Ilara and Ryland. Both of them were staring at me like I'd grown a second head. What are you doing? Ilara whispered. Making an exchange, I said. Seems fair, don't you think? 25 minutes later, I was sitting in the Starlight Motel parking lot with Avon Ventor. She'd changed into jeans and a sweater, looking younger and more vulnerable than she had at the party. This is crazy, she said, but she was smiling. Completely insane, I agreed. But they started it. She leaned over and kissed me. It was soft, tentative, nothing like the passionate embraces I'd witnessed through that office door. But it was real, and it was ours. I held up my phone and took a selfie. Both of us grinning like teenagers, the motel's neon sign glowing pink behind us. Ready? I asked. Do it. I opened the company group chat, all 47 employees of Meridian Tech Consulting, and posted the photo with a caption. Amazing night. Avon is incredible. So glad we could make this exchange. Thanks for the inspiration, Ilara and Ryland. My phone immediately started buzzing with notifications, text messages, calls, social media alerts. Within minutes, the photo was being shared across every platform. Avon's phone rang. Ryland's name on the screen. She declined the call and looked at me. No going back now. None, I said. How does it feel? She considered this, watching the neon sign flicker against the windshield. Like the first honest thing I've done in years. We sat there for a while, watching our phones light up with the chaos we'd created. Tomorrow would bring consequences, explanations, probably lawyers. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I was winning. What happens next? Avon asked. I thought about Ilara and her red dress, about Ryland's smug face, about 3 months of lies and secret meetings, About 15 years of marriage, reduced to a folder of hidden photos. Now we get creative, I said. The next morning brought 23 missed calls and 48 text messages. I ignored them all, made coffee, and read the news on my tablet. The local gossip blog had already picked up our story. Tech executive's wife spotted with mysterious man at downtown motel. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. Alara came home at 8 a.m., still wearing the red dress from the night before. Her makeup was smeared, her hair disheveled. She looked like she'd been crying. "We need to talk," she said. I looked up from my coffee. "Do we? I thought the photo said everything." "That was cruel, Pierce, and childish." "Was it? I learned from the best." I turned my tablet toward her, showing the folder of secret photos I'd found. 3 months, Alara. 3 months of lies. Her face crumpled. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" She sat down across from me, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "It was a mistake," she said. "Rylan and we got caught up in work, and things just happened. But it doesn't mean anything." "Right. That's why you wore our anniversary dress. Pierce, please. I love you. I want to fix this." I studied her face, looking for traces of the woman I'd married. She was still beautiful, still sharp, still everything I'd fallen for 12 years ago. But something fundamental had shifted. Trust, maybe, or respect. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to go upstairs, shower, and get ready for work. You're going to face whatever consequences are waiting for you. And tonight, we're going to have a real conversation about our marriage. And the photo? The rumors? That's your problem now. You created this situation. You figure out how to handle it." She nodded and headed upstairs. I heard the shower running, then the hairdryer, then the careful sounds of someone trying to put their life back together. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Janine from Meridian. We need to talk." "Coffee at 10? Janine Walsh." I remembered her from the Christmas party. Mid-40s, sharp tongue, the kind of person who knew everyone's business before they knew it themselves. Office gossip, but the useful kind. I texted back, "Murphy's Diner on 5th. I'll be in the corner booth." She was already there when I arrived, nursing a cup of coffee and scrolling through her phone. Janine had the kind of face that missed nothing. Bright eyes, knowing smile, the expression of someone who collected secrets for sport. "Pierce Eldro," she said as I sat down. "You've caused quite a stir." "Just evening the playing field." "Oh, honey, you did more than that. The whole office is buzzing. Ryland's locked himself in his office. Alara's getting the cold shoulder from everyone, and the HR department is in full panic mode." I ordered coffee and studied her face. "Why did you want to meet?" "Because I like you. Always have. You're real, you know? Not like these corporate climbers who'd sell their grandmother for a promotion." She leaned forward. "And because I have information you might find interesting." "Such as?" "Alara wasn't Ryland's first affair. There was a junior consultant last year. Got transferred to the Denver office real quiet-like. And before that, an intern who suddenly decided she didn't want to work in tech anymore." The coffee tasted bitter. Pattern behavior. Exactly, but here's the thing. Ava knows. Has known for years. She's just been waiting for the right moment to make her move. "What kind of move?" Janine smiled. "Divorce papers. Filed this morning. She's asking for half of everything plus alimony, plus she's threatening to go public with all the other affairs unless he agrees to her terms." I felt a grudging admiration for Avon. She'd played this perfectly. "There's more," Janine continued. "Ryland's been playing fast and loose with expense accounts. Nothing criminal, but enough to get him fired if the board finds out. Hotel rooms, fancy dinners, weekend trips to conferences that don't exist." "How do you know all this?" "Honey, I process the expense reports. I see everything." She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. "This is from last month. $300 dinner at Le Bernardin. Claimed it was a client meeting, but I know for a fact he was there with your wife." The pieces were falling into place. Ryland wasn't just a cheater. He was a fraud. And Alara wasn't just having an affair. She was complicit in the deception. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Nothing. I just thought you should know what you're dealing with." Ryland's not going to go quietly. He's already talking about damage control, spinning this as a misunderstanding. He's got connections, money, influence, and I've got the truth. Truth's a luxury, Piers. In the corporate world, perception is reality. And right now, the perception is that you're the wronged husband who lost his mind and dragged an innocent woman into your revenge fantasy. I finished my coffee and stood up. We'll see about that. Piers, Janine called as I reached the door. Be careful. Men like Ryland don't lose gracefully. That afternoon, I drove to Mick's boxing gym on the south side of town. The place smelled like sweat and leather, echoing with the rhythmic pounding of gloves against heavy bags. It was the only place I'd found where I could think clearly. Mick was in his 60s, built like a fire hydrant, with hands that could crack walnuts. He'd been training fighters for 30 years and had seen every kind of human drama.
2,000. I didn't get any jewelry.
I was ending
With a
it.
diamond goodbye gift?
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Play out in his gym. You look like garbage, he said as I wrapped my hands. Feel worse. Good. Means you're paying attention. He held up the focus mitts. Talk while you hit. I started with jabs, working out the frustration of the morning. My wife's having an affair with her boss. Figured that much from the news. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. Part of me wants to fight for the marriage. Part of me wants to burn everything down. Both are stupid. Mick moved the mitts in combinations. Jab, cross, hook. Fighting for something that's already broken is a waste of time. And burning things down just leaves you standing in ashes. So what do? You figure out what you actually want. Not what you think you should want. Not what makes you look good to other people. What do you want? I threw a particularly hard cross, and Mick grunted approval. I want them to pay, I said, both of them. I want them to understand what they've done. Now we're getting somewhere, but you better be smart about it. Revenge is like boxing. It's not about the hardest punch. It's about strategy, timing, patience. Any suggestions? Mick lowered the mitts and studied my face. Yeah, stop playing defense. Time to take the fight to them. That evening, Alara and I had our promised conversation. She'd prepared talking points, I could tell. Apologies, explanations, a timeline for rebuilding trust. It was professional, thorough, and completely hollow. I've ended things with Ryland, she said. It was a mistake, and it's over. Because you want it to be over, or because you got caught? Does it matter? It's the only thing that matters. She sighed. I don't know how to answer that. Then we don't have anything to talk about. I went to bed that night with a plan forming in my mind. Mick was right. It was time to stop playing defense. Ryland and Alara had made their choices. Now it was time for them to live with the consequences. But first, I needed allies, and I knew exactly where to find them. Avon lived in a modernist house on the hill overlooking downtown. All clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. I'd never been inside, but I'd driven past it during my railroad days, wondering what it would be like to live somewhere that expensive. She answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, looking more human than I'd ever seen her. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, bare feet. It was oddly intimate. Pierce, I wondered when you'd show up. Can we talk? Come in. Coffee? The house was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive furniture arranged with mathematical precision, abstract art on the walls, everything in shades of white and gray. It felt like a museum. Nice place, I said. Ryland's taste, not mine. I wanted something warmer, but he said this was more appropriate for entertaining clients. She handed me a mug. I hate it. We sat in the living room, city lights twinkling below us. It should have been romantic, but there was too much anger in the air. Janine tells me you filed for divorce, I said. This morning. 22 years of marriage, and it comes down to paperwork. She curled up in her chair, looking smaller than her expensive surroundings. How are you holding up? I've been better. You? Honestly? I feel free for the first time in years. Is that terrible? No, it's honest. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee and watching the city. Finally, Avon spoke. I know about the others, the affairs, I mean. There have been at least 4 that I know of, probably more. Why didn't you leave earlier? Same reason you didn't confront Ilara 3 months ago when this started. It's easier to pretend everything's fine than to blow up your life. She was right, and we both knew it. What changed? I asked. You did. That photo, the group chat. It was like someone finally called them out publicly. Made it impossible to pretend anymore? She looked at me. I've been thinking about revenge for years, but I never had the courage. You gave me permission. So what's the plan? Avon smiled, and for the first time since I'd known her, it wasn't polite or practiced. It was predatory. Rylan thinks he's untouchable. Rich, connected, charming. But he's made enemies. Lots of them. People he's stepped on, clients he's screwed over, employees he's harassed. They've all been waiting for someone to make the first move. And now, someone has. Exactly. I've already had 3 calls from reporters, 2 from former employees, and one very interesting conversation with a client who claims Rylan overbilled him by $40,000. I felt a surge of excitement. What do you need from me? Help. I can't do this alone, and honestly, you're the only person I trust right now. What about Ilara? What about her? She made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. That night, I went home to an empty house. Ilara had left a note saying she was staying at her sister's until things cooled down. Fine by me. I needed space to think. I spent the evening going through our finances, trying to understand what a divorce would look like. We didn't have much. The house was mortgaged to the hilt. Our savings were minimal. And without my railroad job, money was already tight. Ilara made good money at Meridian, but if she lost her job over the scandal, we'd both be in trouble. The thought should have worried me more than it did. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at O'Malley's bar tomorrow at 8. Come alone. R. Rylan. Finally ready for a direct confrontation. I texted back, see you there. O'Malley's was the kind of dive bar that hadn't changed in 30 years. Dark wood, neon beer signs, and a clientele that minded their own business. Perfect for a conversation you didn't want overheard. Rylan was already there when I arrived, nursing a whiskey in a corner booth. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, the kind of disheveled that came from not sleeping. His usual confidence was nowhere to be seen. Pierce, thanks for coming. I slid into the booth across from him. What do you want, Rylan? To apologize and to ask for your help. I almost laughed. My help? Look, I know I messed up. The thing with Ilara, it was stupid and selfish, and I hurt a lot of people. But this has gone too far. Avon's trying to destroy me. Can you blame her? No. But she's not just coming after me. She's going after Ilara too, and the company. If this gets any bigger, innocent people are going to get hurt. I signaled the bartender for a beer. What exactly are you asking me to do? Talk to her. Convince her to settle quietly. She likes you, trusts you. Maybe you can make her see reason. And in exchange, I'll resign from Meridian. Make sure Ilara keeps her job. Give you a good reference for whatever work you're looking for. We can all walk away from this. I studied his face. He was scared, desperate, willing to bargain. It was pathetic, and I found myself enjoying it. Here's the thing, Rylan. You seem to think this is about money or jobs or reputation, but it's not. It's about respect. And you never had any for me or for Avon or apparently for Ilara. That's not true. Isn't it? You've been treating people like disposable objects for years. The affairs, the expense account fraud, the way you looked right through me at company parties like I didn't exist. You never thought there would be consequences. I made mistakes. No, mistakes are accidents. This was a choice, a series of choices, made over months and years, because you thought you were smarter than everyone else. I finished my beer and stood up. Avon doesn't want your money, Rylan. She wants justice. And frankly, so do I. Pierce, wait. But I was already walking away. Behind me, I heard him calling my name, but I didn't turn around. Some conversations were meant to end badly. The next morning, I met Avon at a coffee shop downtown. She looked energized, purposeful, like someone who'd finally found their mission in life. "How did it go with Rylan?" she asked. "He wants to make a deal. Resign quietly, everyone walks away." "And you told him?" "That justice isn't negotiable," she smiled. "Good, because I've been busy. Remember that client I mentioned, the one who got overbilled? He's filing a complaint with the state licensing board. And I found 2 more former employees willing to go on record about Ryland's behavior." "What about Alara? What about her?" "She's an adult who made adult choices. If she goes down with Ryland, that's her problem." I should have felt bad about that. Ilara was still my wife, technically. We'd shared 12 years, built a life together, made promises. But sitting there with Avon, planning the systematic destruction of the people who'd betrayed us, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "There's something else," Avon said. "I hired a private investigator. He found evidence of 2 more affairs, going back 5 years, and some interesting financial irregularities, such as company credit cards used for personal expenses, hotel rooms booked for client meetings that never happened, restaurant bills for romantic dinners charged to the marketing budget." She pulled out a folder thick with documents, enough to get him fired and possibly prosecuted. I flipped through the papers, seeing months of careful documentation. This must have cost a fortune. Worth every penny. Besides, it's about to be half my money anyway. We spent the next hour going through the evidence, building a timeline of Ryland's misconduct. It was damning, comprehensive, and completely legal. Everything we needed to destroy him without breaking any laws ourselves. "When do we move?" I asked. "Tomorrow. I'm meeting with the Meridian Board of Directors at 10 a.m. By noon, Ryland will be unemployed. By evening, the story will be all over the local news. And Alara? Collateral damage. She should have thought about that before she got involved with a married man." I looked at Avon across the coffee shop table. This woman I barely knew, who'd become my partner in revenge. She was beautiful, intelligent, ruthless, and completely committed to our cause. In another life, under different circumstances, I might have fallen for her. But this wasn't about love. This was about justice. And tomorrow we were going to get it. The Meridian board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m., but I was already downtown by 8, sitting in my car across from the Hartwell building, watching employees arrive for what they didn't know would be a historic day. At 9:30, Avon texted me, "Going in now. Wish me luck." I didn't need to wish her luck. I'd seen the evidence she was carrying, 2 thick folders of documentation that would end Ryland's career and probably his freedom. She'd spent the morning with her lawyer, making sure every piece of evidence was admissible and every accusation was bulletproof. My phone rang. "Ilara." "Pierce, where are you? I've been trying to reach you all morning." "Downtown, what's wrong?" "Ryland's panicking. He says Avon's trying to frame him for embezzlement. He wants us to present a united front, say the affairs were just rumors." "Are you serious?" "He thinks if we both deny everything, stick to the story that we're happily married couples, the board will dismiss Avon's accusations as vindictive lies." I almost laughed. "And you're considering this?" I don't know what to think anymore. My job is on the line, Pierce. Our financial future. If Meridian fires me over this scandal, what are we going to do? We'll figure it out. That's not good enough. I need guarantees. Then you should have thought about that before you started having an affair with your boss. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm going to support Rylan. I'm going to tell the board that nothing inappropriate happened between us. That's perjury, Alara. They have photos, witnesses, documentation. You'll be destroying your credibility for a man who's about to lose everything anyway. It's my choice. Yes, it is. And it tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. I hung up and sat in my car, watching the building where my wife was about to commit professional suicide. Part of me wanted to call her back, warn her about what Avon was presenting to the board. But a larger part of me The part that had been growing stronger since that night at the motel wanted to let her make her own mistakes. At 11:15, my phone buzzed with a text from Avon. It's done. Ryland's been terminated effective immediately. Security is escorting him out now. I looked up at the building and saw them. 2 security guards flanking a man in an expensive suit, walking him toward the parking garage. Even from a distance, I could see Ryland's humiliation in the set of his shoulders, the way he kept his head down. Another text from Avon. Board voted unanimously to terminate his employment and refer the matter to law enforcement. Alara tried to defend him. It didn't go well. I started my car and drove home, feeling strangely empty. For weeks, I'd been building toward this moment. The public destruction of the man who'd stolen my wife. Now that it was happening, I felt nothing but tired satisfaction. At home, I found Alara sitting at the kitchen table, still in her work clothes, staring at her phone. She looked up when I walked in, and I saw something broken in her eyes. They fired me, she said. I'm sorry. Are you? Because you don't sound sorry. You sound like this is exactly what you wanted. I sat down across from her, studying her face. What I wanted was honesty. What I wanted was respect. What I wanted was a wife who didn't lie to me for 3 months while she had an affair with her boss. So this is punishment? This is consequences. There's a difference. She laughed bitterly. Consequences, right. Well, congratulations, Pierce. You got your revenge. Ryland's ruined, I'm unemployed, and our marriage is over. How does it feel? I considered the question seriously. How did it feel? Not as good as I'd expected, but not as bad as I'd feared. Mostly, it felt like